we are here with Pedro Perez, the VP of Nuevo Advertising, and we're really excited to have you here.
Hi, what's up, Pedro?
I'm sorry?
You're on.
I'm on. All right, well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
I know. Oh, go ahead. We're not used to doing this together.
No, this is
Go ahead.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Pedro comes to us from Nuevo Advertising, which is an advertising firm that specializes in marketing to the Hispanic community. The reason that this kind of thing is needed, obviously, is that the Hispanic community is a vastly, exponentially growing population within the United States. To what extent, Pedro?
Well, when I first started this, the community was about 44 million. Now we're up to almost 47 million. The growth rate is 167% a year.
Wow.
Which is huge. And then, you have generational. You have first generation, second generation, third generation. You have English, Spanish, Spanglish. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Now that is, I know it's a movie with Adam Sandler.
It is a movie with Adam Sandler.
I enjoyed it greatly,
right.
unlike many other people.
Well, it also means using English and Spanish words wherever appropriate in advertising or marketing, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah. So what kind of things go into, making sure that you're hitting that demographic?
Well, return on investment is one of the biggest things that we bring when we actually are hired by one of our clients. Not only that, we review what you're trying to accomplish. When you talk to somebody about going into the Hispanic market, that's a huge undertaking. I don't care if you're going to do a small little ad or you're going to do an all-out TV, radio, print, campaign. The problem I've found most often is swallowing that pill. Most people just don't know what size that pill is, so they don't even want to take the chance. So what do they end up doing? They end up going to the one Spanish person in their company. They say, "What do you read?" And they say, "Is it a good magazine?" Well, that person says, "Sure." And they say, "Let's buy an ad in there." So they run the ad for a month or two, and they say, "What came of that ad?" Nothing. So then what happens? We're not going to advertise to the Spanish market. There's nothing there. We just spent X amount of dollars and nothing came back to us. Wasn't done right. And that's what I try to illustrate to people. If you have a plan, if you have a goal, and you can measure the returns, you'll see it's there. And Tampa alone has over $800 million bought by the Hispanic community.
Wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Where is it going? Cars. Used to be housing. Still is to a certain extent. Insurance, fast food, servicing your car, and entertainment. And by capita, the Hispanic community is very young. Your average age is 28. So now you're talking about a 28-year-old expendable cash that's having kids early. So you have a very young family that can get tied into a lot of the hip stuff happening in Tampa. But they don't know about it. Most don't know about it.
Now, how do you reach them? How do you reach the general business community and explain to them?
I do this a lot.
Yeah.
I go around, I talk. As being president of the AdFed in my little neck of the woods in Sarasota.
We didn't mention this. Pedro was the president of the Suncoast Advertising Federation, and he came up from Sarasota tonight to be with us.
That's right. And I actually ended up having a great year. I had a little baby girl as well.
Oh, congratulations.
Sophia Bella, thank you very much. And she took up absolutely every ounce of time I had, excluding the business. Now, that being said, spreading the word is really just explaining to people how to take little bite-sized pieces of the equation. So people aren't not wanting to do it. They do. It's just a question of having the time to sit down with me. So I try to do it in a setting like this where you can communicate with the masses. I know that I've had articles in Florida Trend, Maddox, Business Journal, local paper a lot, and anywhere that I can either become an expert or explain a subject for or in part of the Hispanic community, I do. It's something I believe in, so it almost feels weird that I'm getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
I hear people say that all the time, but I really do believe that. It's just fun, and I know that I'm filling a need for both sides. The Hispanic community has a need to buy and consume services, and they want to feel involved.
Yeah.
And then you have the product over here that's trying to connect with buyers, especially in a market that we're going into right now, which is kind of a little funny. This is found revenue. This is not something you're currently doing. So if you're looking and you're scratching your head and you're saying, well, we're losing shares over here. What can we do to recover that? The Hispanic market isn't the answer, but it's one of the answers.
Right.
Now, in communicating with that market, is it not a problem that some people possibly get into? They think, oh, well, if we just translate to Spanish, then it's going to hit them the right way.
Yeah, that's
I'm
true
sure there's
too.
more to it than that. I mean, what goes into hitting the community? Obviously, I don't.
Well, it's a couple of things. One of the things that I feel is the most important, who is your target audience? How do you figure that out? Well, we have access to reporting, both census, real life data, and my experience being here for however many years. So you take those three things, and I can tell you if your audience is, I don't know, for lack of a better word, Mexican, and they have a household of X, and they have an income of X, and they have certain customs and whatnot, well, then we write the dialect in that form, and we put it in a magazine that's relevant, so we don't insult. I mean, my goodness, Volkswagen, Coca-Cola, Budweiser, the list goes on and on and on of people who have translated things that work in certain parts of the country and not in others. I'll give you the perfect case. I want to say it was Bud, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
They had a beer, and the point of the beer, oh, I'm sorry, it was Corona. Bam, I remember now. The ad was, finally, a cold Latina. Well, the Latin community got in an uproar. How can you call me cold? It was a play on games because the Hispanic are perceived as hot women, hot, hot, hot. So it was a play on words, trying to tongue-in-cheek it. It didn't matter. There was an uproar. Some congresswoman in California got involved. The people in Miami were like, well, and they had to pull the ad. They spent millions of dollars in that ad. They spent millions of dollars in the production of the ad, and they had to pull it in 2 days. So it was up, 2 days, taken down. Okay, I can make an argument for why the impressions were good. It got national coverage. I got some other stuff. All right, you can somehow justify
you got the PR
that.
angle there.
You can justify it to a certain extent. Wouldn't it have been nice to go into that plan knowing that was going to be the case instead of it being kind of like the aftermath and trying to figure out how you're going to spin it?
All along.
Yeah, well, you're going to spin it. You have to spin it.
Yeah.
Right.
So when it comes to Hispanic writing and translating and whatnot, what we do, we try to culturalize the message for the community we're talking to. So, for instance, if we're going to do a website is written in what we call broadcast Spanish. Broadcast Spanish is called Castellano, which is Colombian Spanish. Not really, but it's the closest to it. Very proper, very slow, and there's very low chances of confusing with words because words mean a lot of the same things, and if you know where they're coming from, it makes it easier. When you're going to try to deliver an ad, isn't the point of delivering an ad to interrupt, deliver the ad, and then move on? Mm-hmm. Well, what we are able to do is we're able to create the ad in the Spanglish, in Spanish, whatever it may be, and talk to a second generation or third generation person who maybe speaks English. Do I need to talk to them in Spanish, really? They're you and me,
Right.
They're my age. They speak both. Well, yeah, because if I see an ad and all of a sudden it's in Spanish and it's for something that I use and I know of in English, I will stop. It will stop me and then say, whoa, look, grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, look, I found this ad. It's in Spanish. Look what they do. The pass-along rate is incredible.
Yeah. Do you have clients currently in Tampa?
We do have clients. We've had the original Hooters as a client.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the St. Pete Times Forum as a client. We've had Southwest Water Management as a client. I mean, we've had some pretty big and pretty small clients in this area. We have a condo association in New Tampa that we're helping to broadcast and advertise their message. Done everything from commercials to radio to print to grassroots.
Wow.
And a big giant chain that I can't not discuss because they didn't let me, but we were all over home improvement areas helping out selling of a credit card that worked in Latin America. So it was actually a pretty cool, really cool project, actually.
It's very
great.
interesting stuff,
Yeah.
especially for our area.
Where can we people go to find out more about your company?
NuevoAdvertising.com.
Thanks very much for coming
Thank
onto
you.
the show, Pedro. Appreciate everything.
Thank
It's
you for
been an
having me.
enlightening experience.
It was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.